Welcome to the Wooper Club League, Season 18, Week 2 Power Rankings and Recap. We're a quarter of the way through the season, only 3 teams left that are undefeated. Surprisingly normal distribution there. What happened this past week? I'm your host, IllLogic. I'm the coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, SteveChuck, coach of the Waterdeep Wobbuffets.
Hey, everybody.
Still no transactions or trades to go through, so I guess we get to get right into the power ranking, which is pretty nice here. Let's start off with the recap then. It's another week starting with my Bouffalant, and this time it's going to be a win. This time against Chad CL Steamrollers. Jump left sets up Tailwinds and Mementos out. That lets Terra Normal, Toxtricity, KO Screamtail basically for free, but then Terra Water Ogre Pond with the easy revenge Ivy Cudgel. Charizard in on Jirachi, gets up rocks but goes down to Flamethrower, then Urshifu down critically low as it SDs up and clicks Sucker Punch. Oh no, but Great Tusk tanks Urshifu, tanks the CC. Helmet takes it down, gets up rocks. Mouse will try setting him with Tidy Up, but that Helmet takes that down easily too, and you already know Raging Bolt destroys Tornadus. That's a 4-0 to get my Bouffalant on the board. Next up, it's a couple of undefeated teams with your Wobbuffets taking on the Empoleons, and you clinch a pretty convincing win to move to 2-0. Glamora sets up rocks and spikes as it goes down, but with no removal on the other side, Steve is happy with that. Raikou gets the 2-hit KO on Goldango. Metagross the easy pivot into Diancie as the Empoleons have a tough time pivoting on hazards. Agility Metagross, Psychic Fang's nice, or Raikou does tank a Hydreigon hit back into Diancie, who gets off some damage but goes down to Raikou as well. Perimarina tanks a Hydreigon hit. Articuno barely survives but does get up Tailwind, getting some damage into Gross, I guess. Hydreigon does get a KO there, but it's inevitable as Torn sets up on Hydreigon, locked into Earth Power, so plus 4 Air Slash is enough to KO Urshifu and Hydreigon, and it goes down, well, to go down to hazards there. Steve's Wobbuffets looking good. Next match is the Noctows and Boulders, and hey, the Boulders kept this one very close, but the Noctows win again to stay undefeated. Bulky Cinder gets off Willow into Meowscarada, then KOs at the next turn with U-turn. Tinkaton gets up for rocks as Magastorm misses. Then it, of course, misses again, out into Sinistra on another miss. What is happening? Then it finally hits. It triggers Weakness Policy. Shadow Ball takes down Heatran. Good riddance. Flygon does get the revenge. Tinkaton knocks off the Scarf, and in comes Swalot to tank hit. Flygon in again on knock, then back into Swalot on player off again. Knockoff hits. EQ does a bit at a time, slowly chipping away at each other. Finally, the Tinkaton goes down. Glowking is at a third when Swalot goes down. Palafin activated, and in comes Cinder. Reversal into Flygon. It survives on 2%. Unfortunate. Terapagos comes in and gets to Rapid Spin away hazards and KO Cinder. Calm Mind up. Toxic on Glowking could be big. Barely survives the +1 Terra Starstorm and switches out. Then back in to tank another as Toxic chips away on it. Then the crucial decision. Iron Bundle is sacked instead of the Ogre Pond as Terapagos finally goes down. A battle Terra's Terra Ogre Pond versus Terra Ice Palafin in the snow there. Palafin lives and KOs with the boosted Ice Punch. Wonder if Bundle could have lived to hit in the snow. Close one, but the Noctows are 2-0. Halfway through, 2 teams looking for win number 1. It's the Incineroar who will get it over the Kinglers. Gren barely tanks a pair of Scarf Hydro Steams. Torkoal comfortably tanks a Dragon Darts, but now what? Darkspawn answers Torkoal well, and even gets a wish into Gren somehow. Full Corona in on Rillaboom, who gets burned by Flame Body, and up goes Quiver Dance. That's big, especially KO's Iron Valiant, and then also Walking Wake. Just like week 1, Terra Chiyu to the rescue. Terra Water, and there's a KO to revenge. Very nice, but D-Dance Dragon Bolt is getting ready to go, chipping Torkoal dangerously low, then force out, but can still KO Latias with ease. But Chiyu, Torkoal, and the burned Rillaboom, you're not breaking through Darkspawn. Wish, player off, repeat, it's working. Down goes Chiyu to a couple player offs. Torkoal was chipped enough that a couple players get through the Turtle 2, and a burned Rillaboom stands no chance. The goodest Red Boy brings the Incineroar their first win of the season. Next up, the Agrons keep rolling with a win over the Pups. Whimsicott with a nice encore to lock Sylveon into Calm Mind. That lets Ogerpon come in. It sets up a Swords Dance and KOs the Ivy Cudgel. That's a good start. Doesn't quite OHKO Corviknight. Takes some damage, but that'll play with a 2-hit KO. Outspeeds Latios. Oh, to KO. Oh no. Heals up with Hornling Shot Swampert. Oh no. Ivy Cudgel KOs Hearthflame. KOs Rotom. Oh no, that's game already. The Agrons just win, baby. And finally, the Boopers click the Corviknights to get their first win of the season. Rotom burns Decidueye early. Nice. The Mismagius returns the favor against Hammerot, but the other got up a layer of spikes there and switches into Enamorous for free, who gets up the Tailwind. Chen Pao tries to get the jump with Ice Shard, but the Yachi Berry Superpower comes off and KOs Chen Pao. Then an easy dodge or 2 have to Draining Kiss heal up, but the next hits, even as Grimmsnarl goes down. Iron Moth with the good revenge KO trades damage with Hammerot before that goes down to burn. Iron Treads into KO Decidueye. It's Mind Games time now. D-Knight is in for free. Swaps into Mismagius trying to force the Terra. It does get the Terra Ghost out of Treads, but it clicked to knockoff to KO the incoming Mismagius. Terra Normal D-Knight, who is now D-dancing up. But not great coverage for Ghost Treads. D-Knight brought dangerously low as Treads goes down. +1 Terra Normal E-Speed. Sneasler has the Focus Sash to survive and KO. Then, of course, outspeeds Iron Moth right after. The Boopers hang on to win. And that's what happened in week 2. Let's head over to our power rankings, and we've only got 3 teams that are left undefeated. Those are the ones at the top. They're Newport Noctows, Waterdeep Wobbuffets, and Akron Agrons, and then a few 1-1 teams sparsed in here. The Buffalo Bouffalant, the Wooper Boopers, Evergreen Empoleons, Calgary Corviknight, and Cincinnati Incineroar. Steve, before we got into this, we talked pretty extensively about the 1, 2, and 3 teams, the undefeated teams, and granted it's a small sample size and none of them have lost yet, of course, but these 3 teams all look real good, and it was pretty tough to place them where they ended up going here at 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, we did talk about changing up this order quite a lot, but really it just ended up at the preseason typical power rankings of these teams. Noctowls ahead, Wobbuffets here 2, and Agrons at 3. A lot of different factors going into this. On the side of the Agrons, they've had a really strong season so far. They had a very dominant, surprisingly dominant, I'd say, but very strong performance week 1. Took care of business week 2 with a very dominant performance over the Pups here, getting the 6-0. But outside of that, we haven't seen a lot from them historically to be able to keep this up. They might keep it up for a couple more weeks and they might keep around, but come the end of the season playoffs, we'll see if they're able to keep doing it. On the side of the Wobbuffets and the Noctowls, the Wobbuffets have a pretty strong win in week 1 over the Bouffalant. A very reasonable win this week. Overall, fairly average. The Noctowls, that dominant week 1 win over the Incineroar, but it was all based off of the single Pokemon, the Espeon. If the Incineroar had played slightly better, and we saw the rest of the Noctowls team that week, I'm not sure if it would have stood up. It probably still win, but maybe not as convincingly. And this week against the Boulder, as you mentioned, very close game. Came down to the decision at the end to sack the bundle and try and win it at the end with the Ogre Pond. Perhaps the bundle would have been able to get it done. It would have been at least a little more interesting. And so, with them all, being close, some having more dominant wins, some more questionable wins, it's all in all a wash. Just went down to where they started out the season, and we'll have to see through more matches. Even if they all remain undefeated into next week, which a little spoiler for the schedule, they can't. We might just have to keep the same order, at least get more data to see what happens there.
Absolutely. These are the three teams I think I have the most confidence in right now. So we move to our 1-1 teams. Whenever we chatted before too, Steve, it sounded like you wanted to kind of separate out the next couple, the Bouffalant and the Boopers, both 1-1 teams, but their wins look pretty good. Their losses are pretty reasonable here as well moving forward.
Yeah, so both of these teams, of course, having lost to the some of the 2-0 teams, the Bouffalant losing to myself and the Wobbuffets, and the Boopers losing to the Agrons. So that, in my mind, gives them a little bit of the edge. Both of them also notably have wins over other 1-1 teams. Calgary is, the Boopers win over Calgary especially is quite nice, as they're a team that typically competes. The Steamblowers trying to get back to it, missed the power rankings this week. But, a good win for the Bouffalant just the same. But both of these teams losing those week 1 matchups against these other top teams, a little more question. Certainly not able to put them into that top 3 conversation. But I believe those week 1 losses to the top teams was enough to keep them, in my mind at least, a little bit above the others.
And we'll get some more data on them in the near future as well. 6-7, probably next grouping here. Implant and Corviknight, the middle of the pack here. Decent wins, reasonable losses. They're doing all right.
Yep, same thing here. The Polions with the slight edge, as their loss was, of course, again to the 2-0 Wobbuffets. So that little bit of an edge there, but both of them with a loss, both of them will win over an 0-2 team. Really, it's hard with just 2 to rank some teams, but this is where we're at. And yeah, we'll see what they're able to do with the remainder of their season.
They sure are still there and bringing up the rear here. Incineroar making the number 8 spot kind of their home, it seems like, as they were there at the end of last season as well. This was kind of a tough decision, but not one that I really wanted to dwell on all that much. Incineroar, hey, congrats on the win.
Yep. We were considering other teams here, especially the Steamrollers, given they're both 1-1. But we gave the edge to the Incineroar, in recent memory, the better team. And then in addition, it's hard to hold much of the week 1 against. They made, 2 bad plays in the first 2 turns and paid for it with a 6-0. Perhaps, things are a little bit different. They get there. They had a fairly dominant win over the Kinglers. So enough there to give them the slight edge into this 8 spot. But at the moment, they're at the bottom, and we'll have to climb their way back up in terms of our respect through the rest of the season.
We'll do it for the power ranking section. Let's take a look at the standings here, the overall picture. As we said, those 3-2-0 teams up there at the top. Agron's leading the way in differential right now. The 1-1 teams, we've got 6 of those ranging from only +2 to -2, so pretty standardized there. And a few 0-2 teams there. The Boulders could still potentially turn things around. They looked a whole lot better in week 2 than week 1 at least. Any comments on the standings through 2 weeks, Steve?
I mean, yeah, it seems like a very normal distribution. As we were talking earlier, after week 1, of course, there's 6 1-0 teams and 6 0-6 teams. Of the teams from different rankings that played each other, 2 of the 1-0 teams beat the 0-2 team they paired up against this week, and 2 of those matchups were flipped the other way, so resulting in this nice normal distribution here. It was interesting, was something worth noting, but I mean, yeah, in terms of the overall differentials are fairly bunched. The 2 O's and O2s are a little more spread out there, But yeah, very notably within all those even teams being +or -2, still a little bit of range, but fairly close. It'll be interesting to see, in a couple more weeks if any of these teams are able to really step ahead in differential.
Yeah, pretty nice. Even looking at the differentials there, still pretty even overall. It's pretty nice to look at there. But that's going to do it for week 2. We've got plenty of juicy week 3 games, though. The way that our wonderful schedule maker Steve makes these, as you already know that weeks 1, 3, 6, and 8 are going to be bangers, and we should be learning a lot from week 3. There are plenty of matches to catch our eyes, but what stands out in particular to you, Steve?
Well, I will highlight the top 2 matches here. Of course, the Noctowls and Wobbuffets, the 1 and 2 on the power rankings right now, the 2 and 3 in the preseason rankings. Always a great game against the Noctowls, and we have another one of those coming up here. And then, of course, another highlight we talked about these 2 teams being grouped, the Bouffalant and Boopers. Nice to get a head-to-head there to break that tie moving forward, as well as probably shift what groupings they are being discussed with.
Absolutely. Hey, why not just round out the rest of the power rankings with 2 more matches? Number 3, Agrons, the 6, Empoleons. Agrons have a chance to continue to keep on rolling with another big win. The Empoleons really need to get a win against a top team here. Yes, we respect what they did during the postseason, but they need to get one in the regular season here, too, to keep up a little bit. And the Incineroar and the Corviknight here, who rounded out our power rankings, we don't have all that much of an opinion on you yet. So this is a great chance to grab a good win, show us what you really got, and announce yourselves in the season. Hey, the winner of this moves ahead of a team like either the Bouffalant or the Boopers as well. So that can be something to build on for sure there and move your way into potentially the top half of the power rankings if we end up doing well enough. So that's going to do it for us for the Week 2 recap and power rankings. Join us next time for Week 3. And we've got a lot of great matches. There should be quite a bit of movement here, so we'll see you next time.